there is a quiet light inside every person, not the kind that flickers from candles or glows from stained glass windows, but a steady, unmistakable flame that lives in the hollow of the chest and behind the eyes. Call it soul, spirit, the human locus of wonder. It hums with a knowing older than books and rites. It remembers the taste of first breath, the color of dawn before names were given, the pull toward something vast and real that is not parceled out by priests, curricula, or decrees. This light does not need permission to burn. For centuries, forces have gathered around human hearts and tried to put that light in a box. They dressed constraint in the language of salvation, in the solemnity of schooling, in the authority of laws, and they promised that obedience would bring meaning. But what those forces often did, whether by design or habit, was to reroute the inner impulse, from listening inward to obeying outward, from trusting the quiet compass of the soul to trusting the loud voice of doctrine. The result was a slow, polite amputation of curiosity, an education that teaches how to think inside a cage, and systems of rule that reward conformity above courage. If there is a villain in this story, call it the old tactic: divert, distract, and dominate. It whispers that the source of existence is a thing to be received secondhand, that the deep questions are for specialists, that freedom is too expensive a luxury to grant the many. It uses religion as a way to fix answers instead of nurturing questions. It uses education to replace heartfelt discovery with rote facts. It uses government to cement the comfortable order of yesterday and hush the insurgent possibility of tomorrow. At times, this tactic looks cunning and convincing. At others, it appears as plain fear, masked in rituals and policy. Yet the human soul has a stubborn biology of hope. It refuses to be wholly domesticated. When a child looks up at the night and asks why the stars are there, the soul leans forward. When a person in an unequal town lifts a trembling hand and says, "This is not right," the soul tightens its fist and prepares to move. These are not acts of rebellion against faith. Rather, they are the soul reclaiming its birthright, the right to seek, to doubt, to connect directly to the source of being without intermediaries who would profit from separation. Something else is shifting now. A crack has widened in the old apparatus. The world is waking in small, luminous groups. A nurse who trusts her intuitive care over a canned protocol. A teenager who teaches herself mathematics on a screen in a village where books are scarce. A grandmother who prays in a garden because the quiet feels truer than rules. Across different cultures, languages, and histories, people are remembering that the road to the source of existence runs inward as well as outward. They are learning to read the sky and the body and the heartbeat as scripture, to meet mystery with humility and with courage. This is not to say that all structures are evil or useless. Religion, education, and government can be vessels of profound good. They have birthed songs, science, and justice. The problem comes when vessels become prisons, when sacred things are used to hide fear, when learning becomes a conveyor belt for agreement, when governance becomes a fortress for the few. The devil, understood here as the pattern of dividing, controlling, and numbing, does not always wear horns. Sometimes it wears the comfortable robes of tradition, the polished shoes of progress, the tailored suits of policy. Its work is subtle. Keep people fearful of their own instincts, suspicious of each other's revelations, and grateful for crumbs of sanctioned truth. But the turning point is here. People are seeing the scaffolding for what it is. They are recognizing that the source of existence is not monopolized. It is vast, patient, and pure in the truest sense, available to anyone who learns to listen. The soul is proving to be a bridge between intuition and intellect, between moral imagination and practical action, between private reverence and public courage. When the soul awakens, it does not turn its back on community. Rather, it creates healthier communities, ones where rituals are invitations to truth, where learning sparks questions instead of flattening them, and where governance is accountable to the flourishing of people rather than their subjugation. And there is hope now that glows with pragmatic warmth. It is not the brittle hope of slogans. It is the steady hope of small, repeated recoveries. When a classroom becomes a workshop of inquiry, when policy listens to the lived experiences of those it affects, when spiritual life is allowed to be as messy and private as breath, these are the stitches that close the wounds history left open. Freedom is not an overnight thunderclap. It is the accumulation of millions of private awakenings that, together, make a public tide. So let us celebrate the human soul's power. Let us honor the inner flame that does not need intermediaries to touch the vast mystery. Let us resist the clever, controlling forces not with hatred, but with celebration, by teaching curiosity, by structuring learning as liberation, by building governments that serve the common good. The devil's best weapon has always been to convince us we are atoms, alone and powerless. The soul's answer is more elegant. We are sparks of the same fire, and when those sparks remember they can shine together, no cage, no matter how well designed, can hold the light for long. Walk forward tenderly, then boldly. Listen to the small, insistent promptings in your chest. Ask the questions your ancestors might have been afraid to ask. Share the discoveries you make without demanding that everyone accept your language for them. As more hearts wake and more minds reclaim their birthright of wonder, the source of existence appears to be a distant landlord. But he said, "He is closer to us than the teeth are to the thong, a home we enter through the door of our own souls. And in that home, freedom hums, warm, inevitable, and sweet. You are free by knowing the truth that changes now."